Hi there. It's week 9 and we just finished a very busy week in week 8 with patterns of organization, concept maps and outlines. Now we're going to be taking it a step further and we're going to be going deeper into supporting details. The unit that we're going to be working on this week is chapter 9 in effective reader. It's fact, opinion, and bias. Okay. It's the biggest thing here is to understand the difference between fact and opinion. Fact is something that you can prove. If I say to you the sky is blue, you can look outside and you can say yes. And everybody has the same answer to the question, what color is the sky? Blue. So that's a fact. You can prove it to be true or false. Be careful about false truths. A lot of people misrepresent the facts, so you have to pay attention to things like that, and you'll see examples of that later in the chapter in the Effective Reader book. Opinion, if I say to you, do you like ice cream? Or what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? The moment I said favorite is something, mine's chocolate. Maybe you like strawberry. Maybe you don't like ice cream. Everybody has a different answer, so that's going to be an opinion. Opinions are always true because they're true for the person. If I say, I love chocolate ice cream, you can't tell me no. You can't tell me that I'm wrong. It's true for me. Maybe it's not true for you, but see where that's coming in. That's going to be your opinion. Okay. Bias is, remember back when we were doing identification of vocabulary and we didn't know what to start with, and I said, at least find out if the idea is positive or negative. Okay, if we're looking at the Jean-Louis Calment story back in the Ready to Read More book in on page 6, and that first paragraph, and it's given us all the facts about her birth and her death, and she married her second cousin, and she had one grandchild, and all that information. I look at that and say, is that positive or negative? Well, all of those are facts. All of that information in there is a fact. So that's not positive and that's not negative. That's neutral. When something's not positive or negative, it's neutral. If I say, I love chocolate ice cream, well, love has a very positive word, positive feeling to it. Bias is positive or negative feeling. So if I say to you, what's the bias of the paragraph, you look for. And remember when we're identifying the topics and what's the topic of this? And I said, look for words that repeat. The word that repeats is the topic. Same thing with bias. Look for prefixes. Il, in, im, dis, di. Those are all negative. If I look at other prefixes that are positive, you'll see those repeating. You'll see a negative bias repeats with not, never, nil, none, all of those negative words. So if I say to you, what's the bias in this paragraph, you read it and number one, you'll get a feeling for it because those negative words repeat or the positive words repeat. So bias is it positive or negative? And it's always about the opinion. Okay, so if I have a biased paragraph, I already have, if I say to you, here's a trick. If I say to you, what's the bias in the paragraph? And you say positive or negative, whatever the particular paragraph is, then the next question is this paragraph mostly fact or mostly opinion? It has to be opinion. Opinions have bias. If I say, I don't like... what don't I like? I don't like fish, for example. That's me. And other people say, well, how can you not like fish? Well, I don't like fish. That's my negative bias. So when you say to me fish, I'm going to make a negative face like this. Okay? If I look at the Jean-Louis Calment story and I say, look at all of this information, what's the bias? Positive, negative, or neutral? Remember, neutral is no positive, there's no point of view, there's no perspective, there's no change from person to person. She was born in France. There's no opinion about that. Okay, fine. So if you see a question that says, what's the bias, positive, negative, or neutral? And the answer is neutral. And then the next question says, is this paragraph mostly fact or opinion? You can say fact. Now be careful, you're also going to see examples in this particular chapter of ideas that are mixed with fact and opinion. If I say Jean-Louise Calment was born in France and she was the oldest living person in history. Well, she was born in France. We can prove that. That's a fact. She was the oldest living person in history. You can prove that. Okay. If I say Jean-Louise Calment was the oldest living person in history and she must have had a wonderful life. Well, you can prove the oldest living person in history, but then you go to the part of the sentence that says wonderful. Well, what's your definition of wonderful? There's a positive or negative thing. There's your bias. When you see something that starts to put in a perspective, a point of view, a bias, a positive and negative or whatever, that's going to make sure, that's where you're going to start to see opinions, okay? So, and they love to do this in the book and in the practice exercises online of mixing positives and negatives with facts. So if it says fact or opinion or both, don't always assume it's going to be both. Don't always assume it's going to be opinion only. Look for, they give you lists of words to give you hints and things like that in the book about opinions and facts. Make sure you look at those lists, do the practices in the book. So that's the big thing about fact and opinion. Also this week, going to be doing test number 9, which is going to be Unit 3's test on main ideas, supporting details, patterns of organization, and outlines and concept maps. Okay, you are going to be working on some readings in the Ready to Read More book on cities. Okay, and you're going to have you're going to have that test open up at the end of the week, and it's going to be a busy week again. We're getting ready. We're getting more and more skills, and all of these skills are going to be important when you're going to be preparing for your CPT test and doing all of your practice exercises. Make sure that you're checking you print out your homework list, and you check the announcements, and you check the calendar, and you do your discussion postings for the cities, the pre and the post, as we always do. If you have any questions, be sure to post them online or send me an email, and I look forward to a fantastic week this week.